Good evening, everybody. In the Inter-Society weekly webinar series, we have another exciting topic, invasive biomedical robots, and a very senior scientist from Sri Chitra. Everybody is waiting for the opening of the program. So I invite Sabarish to do the welcome.
Good evening, all, and welcome to the 11th edition of Inter-Society weekly webinar. And I'm really happy to welcome you all. I was told that there are around 266 participants from 10 countries to this event, and the high levels of participation is a testimony to the quality of our talks. And only thing which limits it's the bandwidth, and that is why I think the number of participation is getting limited. Otherwise, it would have been excellent. It would have been an excellent talk series. And as Suhail mentioned, today we have with us Dr. Nagesh, who is the senior scientist at Sri Chitra Institute of Technology and is the biomedical wing. So welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And I once again welcome on behalf of the Inter-Society. I welcome all the participants and the host, and and let us take to hello.
Yeah.
Once again welcome, and sure the best luck. Okay, sir.
Okay. Jayashree, Dr. Jayashree. Yeah.
Today's distinguished speaker, Mr. D.S. Nagesh, is currently working as a senior grade scientist in the biomedical technology wing of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences and Technology, Pujapura. Mr. Nagesh is a graduate in electrical engineering from Kerala University and took his post-graduation in biomedical engineering from IIT Mumbai. He has more than 3 decades of experience in design and development of cardiovascular devices like oxygenator, blood pump, hemoconcentrator, left ventricular assist device, pilot plant production and technology transfer, as well as quality management system implementation for the testing of medical devices and its running. He scored co-awardee of National Research Development Corporation Meritorious Invention Award 2006 for the development of membrane oxygenator. He holds 18 patents on medical devices. He was the head of Department of Technology and Quality Management at SCT-IMST for a 3-year term during 2016-18. And he also has worked with the Total Artificial Heart Development Program at Department of Biomedical Engineering, the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, Ohio, USA, and Boycast Fellowship of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is a fellow and the past president of the Society for Biomaterials and Artificial Organs, India. So on behalf of the organizing team of this Inter-Society weekly webinar series, I once again welcome you, sir, to the session and to start the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the nice words. I'm happy and delighted to be here with this august audience, though not physically because of the situations. Let us have a good evening with all of you, sharing some of my knowledge. It is not what we are doing here, but it is what is going on elsewhere. So I have to be very clear about it. It's a very advanced technology which is going to come maybe in decades later. So I'll share my screen. So it's basically invasive biomedical robots. So my presentation layout, I'll briefly give an introduction of the topic. Then the current scenario of invasive devices in this category. Then I'll talk about the small world, milli, micro, and nano, especially the audience here may not be aware of, not very familiar, because microbiology other like biology people, medical people, they are more aware of the small world, but we are not aware of that much small. So I'll give a little briefly explain what it is really. Then I'll talk about the basics of invasive robots, then the current status, and finally about the possible applications. So this is the layout. So when you talk about robots, immediately what we come into the mind is a human kind of a structure, like a famous Malayalam film, Android Kunyappan 5.1. So which is moving with 2 legs, moving the hands. So that is one type of robot which is very familiar, all of us are familiar, which is commonly available. But you can see there is another category of robots. So as per ISO 13485, it has been defined. Actuated mechanism programmable in 2 or more axes with a degree of autonomy, moving within an environment to perform intended task. So this is a very common definition which can move around to perform a task. So what I will be talking today is coming under this category of classification of robots. So surgery, everybody, we are all aware of surgery. So commonly what is available, if it is inside the body, just open the body near to it, go inside, do the operation, come back and close it. So that is the most commonly available surgical procedure. So which has a lot of limitations because of the pain, time required, and the recovery time. So there are things called minimally invasive. You know, with endoscope and things like that, you can put 2 to 3 holes, go inside through the skin or tissue, go inside, do the operations, and it will be finished fast and patient is recovered fast, less pain. So this is also not possible everywhere. Some of the places, because abdomen and all is very commonly possible, but if it is a very internally of the body, it is not that easily possible. So that is where the invasive thing comes. When there's a small portion which is well inside the body, you have to go inside. So that is the robots which we are talking are capable, are going to be capable of doing operations in these invasive areas. So rocket, everybody is familiar. So I will tell a very good, very fantastic innovation which happened sometime back by meeting a doctor and an engineer. So it is a rocket engineer called Gabriel Idan. He is from Israel. He was in US doing sabbatical. So on the part of his job, he met a gastroenterologist called Agent Scapa. So they were talking together, and this was in the 80s, about 40 years back. So this gastroenterologist told him one of the toughest problem is going inside the body, especially not only for surgery, even for looking at the body inside alimentary canal. It is a quite troublesome to use endoscopes, very long scopes, go inside the body, and the pain, one is pain, second is the patient has to be many times sedative has to be given, and doctor also it is a problem. So then they were talking. Then this Israeli engineer who is a rocket engineer, he told, why you want all these things with a tail or a long tube? Because rockets are going without a tail. It just goes to the space and there is nothing connecting. So why don't we think about it? So then they were working. So it took a lot of time. So they came up with something very novel thing. It is called capsule camera. I'll come to the details. But it took a very long time people to accept it. Now, after 20 years, FDA approved it for actual use. FDA of USA. So it is called a capsule camera. It is basically a capsule which is about the size of a 27 millimeter long and a diameter of about 10 to 12 mm. Very small one. It is just like a pill. It can be, the process is, it can be swallowed. It has a camera, it has LED lights, it has a microchips, batteries, and it has transmitter and antenna. So the person who has got to undergo this examination of alimentary canal, he has to first fast. After fasting, 12 hours of fasting or so, he has to swallow this capsule. So it is a self-sufficient capsule which goes naturally like a swallow food. So it glides through the mouth and through the esophagus and alimentary canal, goes through that. It takes many hours, 3-4 hours to go through that. So when each and every point, the camera and the transmitter sends the images, the photos, what is inside. So the doctor, there's no need of somebody sitting, it's all recorded externally. And complete by millimeter, the intestine can be observed, and you can find out where the problem is, and where are the good portions and where the problem is. So this is what the result of this rocket scientist and gastroenterologist discussion. They named this a capsule camera. So it doesn't do anything other than camera. It doesn't do any repair. It just comes out through the other end of the alimentary canal, and it can be cleaned, sterilized, and reused. So advantages it is a very painless process, no sedation, and it can give a 3D color image and very accurate diagnosis. It is only for diagnosis, and treatment has to be done. If it is a surgical, then it has to be surgery. It can be other thing. It has to be done. So that is the basics of capsule camera. This can be named as one of the earliest stages of invasive robots, but it is a macro level thing. But it doesn't have the legs or hands as we usually take it in, consider as a robot. So now there are 3-4 models of these capsules are available, manufactured by various firms. Most of them are in the US. So it is, as I told you, it's about 1 inch long and about a 1/2 inch diameter. And weight, it varies about 3 grams to 6 grams. So battery life is about 8 hours. So by the time it can come out, and the camera resolution, there are different kind of resolutions. How many frames per second? It goes up to 2 to 6. Then field of view, the angle of view, something like 145 to 170 degree you can see. And communication, radio frequency communication they use. And FDA, US FDA has approved. And the cost is about $25 to $500 one capsule. Many times it can be reused, even though it is not produced because of the high cost. So this is what the current status which is available. So before going to the smaller world, just for the familiarity, I will show a couple of slides. What do you mean by the small world, which is a milli, micro, nano? So we can see that a human being like us, it is about 1.5 meters long, about 150 centimeters long. So when you come to 1 mm, like a frog egg, it's a 1 mm, which we are also familiar. We can engineering drawing under, we are quite familiar about this dimension. Then about a micro, which is about 1/1000 of a centimeter. 1 millimeter, 1/1000 of a millimeter. So that goes to a very small world which we cannot normally see. Up to about 50 microns we can see, like our hair is about a 50 to 60 micron size, which we can see by naked eye. The moment we go to the smaller world, we need microscopes. So light microscope is one thing which you can see in the micrometer world. And if you go below that, then you need electron microscope. So like our bacteria, viruses, proteins, atoms, all of them will come in this nanometer region. Just put this scale in the another way. See what is 1 nanometer. So we have gone from the other side. Now we will see the other side. So if you take a nanometer, you can see about a 1 million nanometer is the pencil tip, what we use generally. That is about a millimeter. Then you can see a tennis ball, which is about a 10 to the power of 8 times of a nanometer. So you can see there are a lot of things on this area. So put it in one more slide. I'll put it in this area to just confirm what is the size of it. You can see our visible light, which is a nanometer starting from 400 nanometer in the lower end to 700 nanometers in the upper end where infrared. Beyond that, it is infrared. Below that is called ultraviolet. So that comes in the nanometer. So beyond that, if it is below 10 nanometer, what we use in X-rays. So gamma rays are till for smaller. Radio waves comes here, or all of them is in about a centimeter to a few meters length. So this is about the size, and you can see what is the radius of electrons. I just put because most of the engineers are not familiar with the size of what is a nanometer looks like. So lithium electron, lithium has 3 electrons. It has a radius of about 1.5157 nanometers. One of the biggest atoms is called cesium with 55 electrons. That is about 0.272. That is not even 1 nanometer. So this is the size which we are talking about. So how this has come? So this nanometer technology is not very old. It is maybe about 30, maybe maximum about 20 to 30 years old. But the concept has come in 1959. The famous Richard Feynman has written a lot of books on physics, very good orator. So one of his talks in the annual American Physical Society meeting in Caltech, nobody was aware of this nanotechnology. So that time he made just a statement. There is plenty of room at the bottom, which he was also not sure, others are also not sure what is going to happen. But it entered, and it was there. It just mentioned, this is the first mention about the room at the bottom, which is at the nanometer scale. So from that, the first statement started all the future developments. So when you go to a macro world, which is a millimeter, micrometer, or a nanometer, there is a lot of difference from the macro world which we see here. From the engineering point of view, the macro world, one of the very, very common thing is gravity. You put anything, it falls down. There is no support. Then inertia. Whichever is staying there, it will continue to stay there. So these two effects are very, very common. Most of our life is based on these two. But when you go to the micro world, these two doesn't exist much. Not even much, but it may not be there at all. So there, what is dominant is electrostatic forces, because what we are talking about, atom or electron level plus lot of space. So instead of we see the planet with the space with a lot of planets in between, this is a small world where atoms are spaced, electrons are spaced in a very, very long space. We look at it in that level. Surface tension is quite strong there. Then this water wall forces. So that is also the force between the surfaces or electron. That is also very, very, very strong there. So for example, this is that water cannot flow through microfluids. So because of the largest surface tension, which will stay there, which we can see in very micrometer tubes, which will just stay there. So these are the totally a different world. Our theories, macro world theories, macro world concepts, macro world designs are not at all applicable in the micro world. This is entirely a new world. So most of this biology exists in this world. But from engineering side of view, very, very, very rarely we go to that field. And as I told you, gravitational field is negligible, whereas electromagnetic field forces begin to dominate. Then random molecular motion is more significant. Then quantum effect dominates, whereas in our macro world, classical mechanics is more familiar. And greater surface area to volume ratio. The surface area is enormously going to high. That's why all these electrostatic, surface tension, van der Waals forces, all those things dominate. Then surface and interface properties, there also dominates. So this is the macro world, which is totally different from our micro world, which is different from our macro world. So this change in surface area, which is one of the most dominant thing, you can see here, see, take a 1 centimeter cube, which has a surface area, 6 surfaces. Surface area is 6 square centimeters, right? And you make it into 1 millimeter cubes, divide it into 1 millimeter cubes. The total surface area will become 60 square centimeters instant times. just go make it into 1 nanometer cubes. So it will become 60 million centimeters square. Enormously high. You can see here, see at least 10 million times bigger than the same volume, but it has made it into small particles, nanometer particles. So surface area is enormously increasing. So this nanotechnology, which has got a lot of applications in all fields of life. See, textiles, if you look at it, there are currently you can hear about some of the dress which is coming, cloth which is coming. It will not wash at all. It will not catch dirt. It will not smell badly. So you can use any number of times. No ironing required, no washing required. Put it on every day. Right now that is available, but it is very, very expensive currently because of the technology. So that is one of the applications. Then another application you can see that some of the glass, which doesn't need cleaning at all, like our lotus leaf. So these are the very common applications which is coming. Biomedical also, there are a lot of applications, cancer therapy, drug delivery, hypothermia treatment, which is coming up, all of them, then MRI, contrast agents, there are a lot of things, then renewable energy, environment, electronics, industrial, food, agriculture, healthcare, whatever you speak, this nanotechnology has come into every area of our life in various things. But it has not purely matured. Now it is in a very nascent state. Most of them are very expensive, but it is catching up very, very, very fast. So this nanotechnology, if you look at it, already we talked in 1959, the first concept has come, but nothing happened until 59 to 2000 or so. It was just a nascent because of the technology and other things were not available. The first generation is basically a passive nanostructures. It is basically dispersed and contact nanostructures, aerosols, colloids, these kind of things, like a paint and all, commonly used. So product that is in around 2000, products incorporating nanostructures, coatings, nanoparticles, reinforced composites, nanostructured metals, polymers, ceramics. So these were the things which are available in 2000. Then the second generation came. That is active nanostructures. It is around 5 years later, by 2005. Bioactive, some of them are which are active biologically, which has health effect, which can affect, you can use it positively. Targeted drugs, which will affect only a few cells like cancerous cells, doesn't affect other cells. Then bio devices, which can go inside, use inside the body. Then luminant materials, photo materials. So then other things like physicochemical active 3D transistors, amplifiers, because slowly in electronics also it has come, actuators, nano, micro level actuators, adaptive structures, all these things came. Then even after 5 years, 2010, you can say the third generation system where guided assembly. You can send it and assemble elsewhere. Then the 3D networking and new hierarchical architecture. Then slowly it has entered into robotics. That is not the small robotics, big that usual robotics thing. And a lot of evolutionary technologies are coming up. Then fourth generation, which is right now it is running in the fourth generation. Then molecular nanosystems has gone more into the biological systems, molecular devices by design. It is called atomic design and emerging function with a lot of other things, which is also happening. So we are talking about the first, we talked about rockets. Again, we'll talk about the rockets one more time. So rocket, the normal rocket, which our ISRO and I was spending for space exploration. So it is about a few meters, maybe 10 to 20 meters long. So it has a body and it needs a thrust at the bottom. Then there will be a payload, which is carried by this this rocket to its destination. There is a combustion chamber, and the propulsion is using hot gases, which is coming. So Newton's third law, because of one thing comes back and the other thing goes opposite to that. So the same thing, we can use it in a micro or macro level. So suppose instead of this 20 meters, we can take about a 10 micron long tube, which has all these components, like a pump, there's a generator, there's a valve, there can be actuators, there can be mixers. It's a large one which has, because there's enough space, we can put any number of items there. But within these 10 microns, or even smaller than that, we have to put a fuel, we have to have a reaction chamber, we have something to coming towards it back, and the movement is forward. So these things are required there. So it is very, very difficult process. So here also, this kind of small robots, we can call it as milli robots. The dimensions about 1 millimeter to 10 centimeter. And we can call micro robots, which is about a micrometer to 1 millimeter range, below that. And till smaller, which is less than a micrometer, comes in the nano robot scale. So here we talked about it. So here, when the rocket flies, there is something called a Reynolds number, which is very familiar with fluid flow. You can say that we say that when the Reynolds number is around transition time, numbers about 2003 to 3000, laminar flow becomes turbulent flow. So everybody is familiar with these things. So rocket is moving in a Reynolds number of about a million, about 10 to the power to 10 to the 8, 1 million to 10 million. So that is the Reynolds number, which goes. When this small world, we come to the smaller world, because of the small species and it is size to length ratio, all these things together, it cannot swim or move in a fluid in this very high Reynolds. It will be very, very small, below 1. So that makes a lot of difference. Since we talked, like we talked in the earlier, this nano world or macro world, swimming, the normal swimming is not possible because of the this special category of the fluid. When we swim, as you know, we swim by using our hands forward and backward and putting our legs. So we move. So this we use it in a Reynolds number about 10,000. So about 5,000 to 10,000 Reynolds number is what is being used. But when a small organism, a micron level organism, when it swims, it has to go -4. That is 1 by 10,000. That is the Reynolds number. It works. So you cannot use this swimming like us, we do the forward and backward motion, or this like rowing a boat, or by an impeller, or by a turbine. These are all you, unless there is a high Reynolds number or the viscosity is that high, it cannot move, it cannot propel, it cannot generate energy, or it cannot generate force. So these smaller ones, totally a different action. It cannot swim like what we do. So here you can see here in the swimming world, like a whale or a shark, which is few meters long. They use a Reynolds number like us, about 10 to the power of 4. Small fishes, the Reynolds number will be much smaller than like a sperm, which has still lower sperm. Bacteria, virus, all these things come together. They are working in a Reynolds number, which is sub 1 level, that is below 1 by 100 or 1 by 1000. So they cannot swim like what the way we swim. So how do they swim? How do they move? So there are two kinds of movements, very commonly available with the micro world, biological world, nature from the nature. So one is called flagella, that's kind of species of small things. What they move is propeller-like motion. They just twist their tail and move. So that is one kind of motion. There is another kind of motion called cilia. That is this back and forth motion. So they just move back and forth. They can move at times. But this velocity is now very, very, very small, not like our velocity compared to our swimming. So these kind of motions, so this is a basic biological motion. So these kind of motion from engineering side, you can produce it using electric propulsion, magnetic propulsion, chemical propulsion, using thermal propulsion, the photoresponsive propulsion, pressure driven. There are a lot of engineering principles which we can use to propel these kind of small things at a low Reynolds number. So these principles, they are used in the high Reynolds number area also, but this has to be done in a very different manner. We can apply into the micro nano area. So there also it can be classified in a fuel powered, there can be fuel free, there can be using propellers, and this also using, there are a lot of kind, because fuel if is taken not like our petrol, diesel, or like a solid fuel which rockets or liquid fuel like rockets are using. So these are all basically chemical phenomena like hydrogen peroxide oxidation, glucose oxidation, or by water oxidation. Then acids and bases, they react each other, can be used for propulsion. Then fuel free, like a magnetic electrical forces like light or ultrasound, or by living organs. You can use these small living organs like a propeller. Then electrophoresis can be used, interferential surface tension can be used, bubbles can be used. Then diffusophoresis. These are different technologies which are used. So there are various mechanisms which can be used. So this is one single mechanism. So you can take a small micrometer length tube and can have a hydrogen peroxide. If you can oxidize it, it will create oxygen. That oxygen can give propulsion. So this will move the device forward. So it may be a few micrometers per second, but it will move ahead. So this small thing can be used for propulsion. So if we can deliver it to some area, and if you want to suppose a cancer cell is there, so we want to attack only one cell or two cells, this can definitely go there. So this is one way of propulsion, but practically there are a lot of problems. What will happen when hydrogen peroxide oxidizes? All these problems exist, but these are the concepts. We have to find out ways of using it for biological purposes. So here also you can do like bubbles. You can use the micro bubbles. So when you buy bubbles, you can generate inside a small tube and propel it, put it outside. This will give a motion like our usual rockets, and it can propel. This is another way of doing it. Then another interesting thing, like if you have a small piece of bimetal, platinum and gold. So by virtue of its catalytic action, it will again generate, decomposes, and the force generated by it can move the piece, the small piece of bimetal will move towards the platinum side. So gold side is in the back and it moves towards the platinum side. This is a very interesting phenomenon. A bimetal small piece of a string can use such a propeller. So nothing else is required. You take a thing, just put it there, it will just works. So this is called as Janus microspheres. So Janus is like our Greek goddess Janus with two faces front and back. So here also something like there is one side platinum, and another side can be a ceramic kind of thing which can liberate oxygen. So this also can drive a small sphere, a micron size sphere. When you have this kind of two materials, it can move by itself. So this is you can call it a motor because it moves. So another thing, using like a small magnet, if you can put a small magnet and use an electromagnetic field or a magnetic field, you can move from outside, it can be moved. These are all small single structures, simple structures. It can be used, can be rotated. All these things are possible. So these are the basic phenomena by which this can be done. So these kind of applications, which is intended application, not really, which are not used in every place. In biological application or biomedical applications, can use it in one thing is a telemetry thing. Like you can have markers, or like what we have talked about this capsule cameras, a small thing which certain markers, it can go inside the body with the small things, it can send signals from that portion which can be decoded and sends what is the problem inside or for diagnosis purpose. Then sensing, normally we have a gross level sensor, we have a cell level sensor, so cells inside the small, very, very small portions, those portions you can use and send it. In electrodes, very, very small level electrodes you can use. Then when you occlude it, like cardiac, various applications, when we use occlusions, there you can put various nanomaterials and see what is happening inside, and they take corrective actions inside. Then stents, stent what is put in for the cardiac, opening of the cardiac, the vessels, coronary vessels. So that's also can be coating can be there with the nano structures, which will help in better compatibility with the blood and the tissue. Then scaffolds, there are something called the tissue engineering which is coming up, which is one of the latest things. So these are basically control structures where you can have a scaffold, grow your cell around that. You can make any group of tissues or organs and put it inside the bodies. So these are all coming of tissue engineers. So their scaffolds can be made of nanomaterials. And for taking biopsy, small portions, for removing the materials. So biopsy, you can see normally biopsy taking is a needle biopsy is there, or a gross biopsy with endoscopes and things like that. So instead of that, if you want only one small portion, you can use these things. So if you want to open up something like this occlusion devices, or suppose you want things that is also can be possible in these areas. Then targeted therapy, you want to deliver something, brachytherapy for cancer, like especially for small areas, you want to deliver something or take a sample, or those kind of things, like prostate cancer is one typical example. Then hyper or hypothermia, both are possible. If you want to heat or a cool one or two cells, if you want to kill that cell, this is possible. You can either heat it or heat it above 42 degrees centigrade, it will automatically die without damaging the surrounding tissue, or cool it to a level so that also will affect. Then stem cells. Stem cells are basically the raw cells which are not differentiated. Theoretically, it can be formed to any cells. So with the tissue engineering scaffold and stem cells, the current so what people think of, you can make any organ. Like if tomorrow you want to take a heart or a kidney or a liver, so stem cell can be taken out. It can be using a scaffold, or the scaffold, it can be grown, it can be made in the organ and put it inside the body. That's all conceptually coming up. So those places, a lot of application is there with nanomaterials. So you can send your robots, so-called nanorobots, inside the body and use it. So how do we make it? So there are processes which are called MEMS. That is a micro-engineered structures, which are, there are a lot of processes available, like transistors or electronics components we use. So this can be all these devices which can be made out of these processes. So this is a very new emerging area which is coming up. So a lot of applications, a lot of robots can be made as per this. So let me conclude what we are talking. So there are invasive robots which are coming up as an emerging area. It has a novel applications in biomedical engineering. Biopsy is a very small portion biopsy is one of the most dominant areas which can be used. Then localized imaging, targeted drug delivery, which can be used. But in reality, it may take a few more years. And for courtesy, I have taken a lot of pictures from different websites. And thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Please.
I'm not seeing any questions on in the chat box,
Okay.
but I'm sure the people have been enjoying their talk. So it is on a new area and evolution of medical science, from technology, application, fabrication, and so on. So you cannot predict what is going to be the outcome of this branch of science. Nanotechnology talks about an area which you cannot see. It's nano, but Nagesh was interestingly explaining how this science is being explored and new applications are being developed. So I was interested to see that the meeting of a rocket scientist and a gastroenterologist resulted in the development of this endoscopy or the capsule camera. So in science, we find that there are many such meeting together. I have read in a book on cybernetics that a Russian engineer, Amasov, he was basically an engineer. Later, he learned medical science. And then he wanted to develop a machine that can replace heart when an operation is done. So that led to the development of heart lungs machine. So sometimes here it is one person doing two branches of science. Nagesh was talking about a rocket person and a gastroenterologist, resulting in a novel discovery in medical science. So it's actually exposes the possibilities of combinations and meeting together of science and different areas of discipline. So I really enjoyed this talk. It's talking from the fundamentals to the application level. So it gives a great exposure on the technological front and what's happening in the laboratory. And interestingly, Srijitra is a very ideal place of medical science research. And it is, these days, this institution is in the lot of news about its medical explorations and practical inventions that is leading to a lot of contributions to this society. So I'm very happy about this topic, the way how it was presented. It was just like a storytelling. So it was with a smile on his face and demonstrations and illustrations. He was able to take us through a technological world which is unraveling its huge potential in the coming days. Yeah, thank you very much.
There are some questions.
Okay, I find it's very informative. The comments are very informative. Dr. N.N. Panikkar says, it is an excellent overview in COVID testing and treatment. Is there any application for it? That's one question.
Yeah, actually it is too far. It will come up. But it is right now, these are all the applications perceived or planned. It will come in with the time only.
Another question from Shanthakumaran Pillai. 1 second. Jitin says, good information. What is the role of robotics in biomedical field?
Robotics, because general robot there are a lot of surgical robots are available. Two, three models are available. So that is a gross level. This is what I am talking about at a small nano level, which is going inside. Da Vinci, there is a robot, a surgical robot called Da Vinci, which is readily available, which can operate even remotely.
Excellent talk. This capsule-based endoscopy is in use now. Shantakumar Pillai.
Endoscopy, even India, it is available. It's available. Only thing is very expensive.
Ashok Kumar is asking, how do we test these devices?
Testing is normally any medical device. There are various ways of testing. First is the way of in vitro testing. It is called without using a live body in the laboratory scale. There are various of fluids like body fluid, identical fluids are available, which are in vitro. It's called in vitro testing. Then it can be tested in animals, and finally it can be used in human beings. First clinical trials, then general use.
Question from Kiran. Sir, is there any other area where we can use in nanotechnology?
Nanotechnology, as I told you in the beginning, every field. Wherever you can use technology, you can use nanotechnology too. Every area.
Question from Bhavana. What is the role of robotics in the biomedical field?
That I think already just told. So biomedical, Da Vinci like surgical robots, they are very commonly available.
Venkateshan, where is research in India happening in this field?
The small level for medical application like targeted delivery and all people working, even in our institute, people are working on targeted delivery. But as a robot with a mechanical electromechanical components, that is not common. It is basically sending a small microsphere inside the body by injection or otherwise.
A question from Zahir Bashir. Can you explain the Janus motor?
Janus, I told you, is a bimetal. Like a bimetal, you can use it for anything. So use it there, it moves automatically. One side, towards the platinum side.
As I understand, with the nanotechnology, new metals are made. Is it correct? P. Jaimon.
Same. Metal is same because the properties of metals at nano level is different. It may not work in the same level. The gold, if you take gold at nano level, the properties of golds are different because of the environment, because of the properties there. It cannot work as a gold. It is a pure, like an atomic level it works. But properties of, gross properties of gold, what we see in our macro world, will not exist in the micro nano world.
Son Gangadharan. Thanks, Nagesh, for your excellent topic of nanotechnology in a simple way.
Thank you.
Another comment is excellent informative session. Question from D. Dhanalakshmi. How is it possible of removing the invasive endoscopy without any damage to our organs?
Yeah, true. Only this has to come out also. What we sent inside, it should come out also some way.
Francis Joseph, when these devices will be manufactured in India?
Very difficult to predict. Depends on the new generation. The new generation people, how they work fast and active.
Shantakumar Pillai, in India, this capsule-based endoscopy is available? If so, where? Question is clear? Capsule-based endoscopy is available in India. If so, where?
Yeah, I think in many hospitals it's available. So it's a very simple thing. You can buy it the moment you have much of about $300, $400 you can send. It can be bought, and only thing that recording things and outside instrument is required.
Question from Chandana. How are the ethical issues related to nanotechnology handle, sir?
So that any good thing will have evil also. That is the discretion of the human being to use it for good things.
Somebody is asking for the slides. Could you share the slides through the mail?
I can share. Whom should I send? I can send to somebody.
Harindulal.
Yeah, that can be done.
Yes.
Akhila Gauri Shankar. The slides are very demonstrative, helping us follow the high-level medical science topics. We are thankful to the scientists like Nageshji for their services to the mankind to diagnose better and thus targeted response. Gomati S. Sir, does this capsule camera harmful to body?
Right now, there is nothing harm. So far, it is like swallowing a pill. It just goes through it. It doesn't, it's very spherical and polished thing. It just goes through the body. But only thing, definitely, it is not very small to swallow. It goes about a 10 millimeter diameter and a 1 inch length. The first swallowing will be difficult. The rest it goes. It goes out through the other side of the alimentary canal. Just naturally goes.
Ramesh N. Unni, for research in this area of nanotechnology, do we have atom probe microscope in any of our research labs?
Some of them are there. Atomic microscopes are there. AFMC, not AFM. These are all there available, but not for these applications, but commonly available.
Question from Bashir. Nanomaterials can also be hazardous.
Yes.
They can be inhaled and may be damaging to the lungs,
Any
depending on the shape of the particles.
Any particle
to special
beyond a level, it is harmful. Even food is harmful beyond a level. So this also has that is the discretion of the human being. Put it for use it for a good things.
Can the operation be performed remotely?
Yes, remote means it's outside the body, so it can be. So once it is there, the technology goes up from the near to the body. You can put it outside and take it to any place.
Francis Joseph, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
P. Jayman to everyone. What motivated you to enter into nano field?
Nano field is a quite wide one. And in fact, what happened is 2-3 years, couple of years back, we were preparing a vision for 2030 with our institute, Sri Chitrathana Institute. So that time I was going through a lot of literature on what is going on new. So this is found out to be a very, very cutting edge technology. It is not really possible in near future for us, but it is definitely it will come in. It will come, it is required. So that's why I got interested in this area.
So that were a volley of questions from the audience. Really enjoyable, good answers.
There is one more question from Venkatesan. Which are the technology development centers in India of this technology?
Nanotechnology wise, there are a lot of centers, all the IITs, IIC, then most of the advanced research centers, they are all using. But robotics part of it, nobody has so far started working. Other than the nanotechnology, beads-based target drug delivery. That even our institute also working, RCC, a lot of institutions, Rajiv Gandhi Center, a lot of centers are working on it. Targeted delivery using nanospheres, but not as a robot.
There's a question from Ramesh. For research in the area of nanotechnology, do we have atom probe microscope in any of our research labs?
I told that is there. Many labs, yeah.
The questions are over. We will pass on to the next item.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Shabari to give the vote of thanks.
Hi, sir. Nandan here.
Okay, welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel extremely happy to be here to deliver the vote of thanks. The Inter-Society webinar series is one of the most popular events happening among the professional community these days. And I know the number of participants attending the event every week shows the popularity among the professional community. And it's purely because of the quality of topics as well as the quality of speakers. So we are actually fortunate to have the presence of experts every week, and it's all because of the vibrancy of the coordinators. We could actually bring eminent people for delivering sessions in diversified fields. Today, in the 11th talk of Inter-Society weekly webinar series, we are fortunate to have the presence of Mr. D.S. Nagesh, who is a scientist or engineer, senior grade of biomedical technology wing of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Science and Technology at Trivandrum. So we are really fortunate to listen to your amazing session briefing about the current scenario of invasive devices and about the small world, I mean, the milli, micro, nano world, and for your fundamental description about the basics of invasive robotics, current status, and the applications. So it was really amazing and informative. So on behalf of the coordinators of Inter-Society webinar series team, I would like to extend a very sincere thanks to you, Mr. D.S. Nagesh, for spending your valuable time with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Next, I would like to thank engineer A.G. Harindralal, who is always a mentor for all of us and currently the chair of Inter-Society Committee of IEEE KELA section, for being the backbone of this event. So it's because of your sincere efforts, the engineers community gets the opportunity to listen to such wonderful sessions. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your efforts and support. I also like to thank Engineer Suhair, who leads Vakamolavi Foundation Trust Trivandrum, for your valuable guidance and contributions in organizing this event. Thank you, sir. And I also like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Shabrish and Professor Dr. Jayashree MJ for your valuable support and for your presence. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank IEEE KELA section for support team for hosting this particular event. Thank you, team, for hosting this event, and thanks to all the office bearers of the associated organizations of this Inter-Society weekly webinar series. Thanks for your cooperation and support. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants who actively participated, and I'm sure that you will be definitely benefited by this wonderful, amazing session. Thank you all. Thank you so much all for your presence. So looking forward to meet you all again in the upcoming webinar series as well. Once again, thank you all. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you.
Shankar, the last sheet.